All right. Hello, everybody. Welcome to episode 2 of Under the Hood. I'm Ed Ciarimboli here with Corey Suda, Fellerman and Ciarimboli, and for about the next hour, we're gonna talk truck law. But first, we want to tell you we got these fancy new microphones with our logo on it. So. We're really well done, Jake and Kyle.
We're not holding cards this time.
No. I mean, we look like true professionals now. So first thing we want to talk about is, we kind of like ripped this from the pages of the news and stuff. And it's like, we've seen so many just ridiculous stories about like truck drivers. There are companies that are hiring truck drivers that have no business being on the roadway, drug addicts, sex offenders. I mean, like crazy stuff. And then we've seen a whole bunch of, recent stories about like truck drivers getting pulled over and they're like watching pornography on their phones or something. Cut it out, guys. Yeah. What do you do? I mean, like you're begging for a lawsuit. And it was funny before we started. Corey and I were talking about some of just the craziest cases that we've had. And one of them was there was a company, we were actually trying this case in Philadelphia. And the driver had worked for a pretty big company before. And, when he applied to this new company, he had on his form that he was terminated from this other company. And nobody ever asked him why he was terminated. Now, look, we're not rocket scientists, but I will tell you, we hire a lot of people here at the firm, and one of the things that we would do if somebody said they were terminated from another job would be
find out why they're terminated, right?
So we're in the deposition, and I'm deposing, the truck driver, and I asked him, I said, why were you terminated from this this other company? And I swear this is what he said: late loads and a bad attitude. No joke.
How many times have you showed that?
Oh my
video?
God! Oh, I've shown it, and the thing is, like, as we mentioned on the last one, like I talked to a lot of truck drivers and trucking organizations, as well, because listen, like, yes, we do plaintiffs work and help people that are injured and killed in truck crashes. That's truck drivers and their families as well. But at the end of the day, everybody's sharing the road, and everybody wants that road to be
right. Ultimately, the goal is to keep people safe on the road.
Keep people safe on the road. Don't die from truck or accident fatalities. But I've shown that to answer your question, Corey. I've shown that to probably 50 different truck drivers, like companies. And it was like, why wouldn't you just ask? And so here's one good teaching point, because sometimes we hear, oh, well, you can't ask. Like there's all those laws in place and everything else. There is nothing preventing you from asking a truthful question about somebody's resume, right? You can't embellish or make it up or whatever, and you can't. But if it's on there, if it's on the resume that they submit, you have every right to follow up and ask a question about what that particular person did or get fired.
I mean, 100%, especially in the trucking industry. Like, you have an obligation to contact their former employers, right? As part of the background check to make sure that this person is capable of driving a truck for your company, and that's part of it.
And it's funny, some of the employers have said, oh, well, previous employers are like, well, what do we say or what don't we say? I'm like, look, you can never get in any type of legal trouble for telling the truth, right? So if the person was a drug addict, you have an obligation to say they were a drug addict. If they failed drug tests, etc., like, you can't lie. If somebody asks you, tell the truth. But that was one of the ones that was just obviously quite funny and ridiculous. But like, we've had ones where like guys they have brought in like fake urine. I mean, all kinds of crazy stuff.
And honestly, that goes into one of the questions today. It's what happens if you fail and refuse a DOT drug test.
Oh.
And I mean, that's right. People legitimately like sometimes bring in fake urine or
they buy
it. And try and pass it off as their own. I mean,
it and there's like a cottage industry, out there like for like this, the fake urine and honestly, like, it's so dangerous, right? I mean, first of all, driving a 80,000-pound tractor trailer is hard enough. Driving an 80,000-pound tractor trailer under the influence of alcohol or drugs, I mean, you're just, you're begging for,
something's going to happen. Something bad's going to happen.
It's not an if something bad's going to happen. It's a when. Yeah. And when that bad thing happens, especially, you're under the influence of alcohol or drugs, you're either going to kill or hurt somebody, really, really, really badly. And, look, I mean, there's men and women out there that obviously they're addicts and they have a problem and they need help. Don't put them behind the wheel of a tractor trailer. I mean, that's just pretty common sense. So what happens is if you fail a drug test, there's very specific things that your company must do before you're going to be allowed to get back in that truck. And if they don't do those things, then the company can also be, liable for any, they're liable for civil penalties, criminal penalties. Their DOT license could be, at
I was just going to say they could get shut down.
Oh,
right?
absolutely.
I mean, the state could shut them.
Oh,
the federal government could shut them down.
I mean, that's the stuff that's like, the federal government, that's real low hanging fruit for them. I mean, they see somebody that, fails a drug test and the company's not doing what they're supposed to be doing. Like, it's a no-brainer. They're gonna. That's an easy one, for them to come in and say, all right, look, your ratings is gonna be in jeopardy, all the above.
Yeah, and for a carrier, I mean, to protect yourself, you could do random testing on these drivers.
Absolutely.
Right. It may be a little costly, but I mean, at the end of the day, whatever costs, are pale in comparison to what could happen if someone, one of your employees was driving around on drugs or alcohol, right?
So, a good friend of mine owns a trucking company, and I think I was talking about this. We talked a little bit about this on the first one. When he was setting this company up, he came to us and he's like, "All right, what do I need to do to make sure that I'm running things really correctly, and that I can lay my head down at night and know that I'm really trying to keep the roads safe and make money, in the same vein, right?" Okay. So one of the things we said is, every year, start ranking your drivers, right? Every year, that bottom 10% of your drivers, those are going to be the people that you got to really pay attention to, because those are going to be the people that most likely are going to be causing crashes, right? Not the top 10% because they're doing everything right. It's that bottom 10%. And one of the things that, we told Jody to implement was the random drug testing, random drug and alcohol testing, and make sure that your people know about it, right? That it's good, that you're truly going to have random drug and alcohol testing. And what he found out was now couple guys just left.
Yeah.
He didn't even have to do anything.
And you're better off in the long run, right? Like, you don't want those bottom 10%, those people that are habitually using drugs or alcohol be on the road for you.
Yeah, so I mean, like, just by doing that, he was able to eliminate potential, couple drivers that were likely, real potential problems, out there. The other thing that we told him, and it's a crazy, silly thing, but we said, make sure that you have a policy that requires your drivers to kind of wear like a uniform, right?
Mm-hmm.
So like something comfortable that they're going to be driving long distances in, but that they look presentable, and then make sure their cabs are clean. And he's like, all of a sudden, like, they started taking real pride in their appearance, how their cab looks, because, man,
I was just going to say,
tell them about some of the, we roll up to these scenes. And
inspections, we inspect tractor trailers all over the country, right? Whenever there's a crash, the first thing we want to do is inspect the tractor and the trailer. We have our experts go out with us. I mean, I've probably done 100 now, if not more. I can't tell you how many cabs have actually been like clean. Like there is food wrappers.
Probably zero.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like I don't think there was one. Like
No.
I you know, and these are where, you know, the drivers are sleeping and eating. And it's just disgusting. Like it's bad.
It's so
very bad.
nasty. True story. This goes back probably 10 years. And crash happens. We get the call like either that day or the next day. And so we want to schedule the inspection. And we get to the tow yard, and we open up the cab, and there's like an animal cage. And we're like, what the hell is that? This truck driver was driving around with ferrets.
Oh my God.
And the ferret was still in the truck because the truck driver was hurt in the crash as well.
God.
Yeah. So we get there, and the ferret, it's like, I don't even know what do you do? Like, you know, at this point, like the ferret is like quasi evidence. So, you know, we left the ferret with the owner of the tow yard. Like, look, you got to tell him to come get the ferret. Like, you can't. The ferret's going to freeze to death and die. But that was one of the strangest ones.
I don't think I've seen anything like that. That's crazy though. That's I mean, what we found bottles of Yukon Jack in a
Yukon Jack.
before.
Listen, these are the things like they never taught you in law school. You know, what happens when you show up and there's a ferret. Another true story, and then we'll get to a question. We're going to talk about animals. So this was our clients, right? I get called and I go.
I know the story.
I go and I meet these clients, and they have a ton of cats. And if anybody knows me, I can't stand cats. Like, I'm not a cat person. We have cats. I tolerate them. I just don't like them. So I'm sitting there, and this cat, one of the cats, and first of all, the clients, I'm pretty certain we're setting a land speed record for smoking cigarettes, right? I mean, there are piles of ash, piles of cigarettes, butts in the right there. And then about midway through the interview, the friggin' cat jumps right on my head. I mean, right on my head. I had to literally take the cat off my head, put it down. I walked out of there. I think I got rid of every article of clothing that I was wearing. But that was one of the strangest ones.
Luckily, the ferret didn't jump on.
No. All right, what do we got?
So the second question, I guess. This is something that we see very often. And I'm glad someone asked this. It's about an owner-operator, right? Owner-operator, but they carry loads for a larger national company. Person's insurance lapses and he gets into a crash. Right. Who's on the hook here?
So that's a really good question. So a lot of these owner operators, they'll hook up with a broker and they'll go on a load board and they'll get brokered loads from, all kinds of different carriers, right? So, if they are operating under, if they're operating under Swift's DOT number at that time, then Swift is going to be, responsible for, even though that person doesn't always work for Swift for that particular transportation cycle, they're going to be considered an employee of Swift per the Federal Motor Carrier Safety Regulations. So it really wouldn't matter in that scenario,
right?
That their insurance had lapsed. Now, the problem, though, is if they go on a load board and they get a load direct from a shipper, and there's no, they're getting it right from a shipper, and there's not a big company that they're going to be operating under. Now you got a problem, right? Because
real problem.
Now you got a real problem because one, and not only does the company have a problem, but the shipper has a big problem as well, because they're hiring a company and they didn't do their due diligence to check their insurance. I mean, that's like number one thing you gotta you got to make sure that they have valid insurance.
I mean, and the shipper could be held liable.
Absolutely. I mean, we're in Pennsylvania. You can hold shippers liable on a negligent selection claim just as well. I mean, very simply, the shippers have an obligation to use reasonable care, i.e. due diligence, to make sure that they're hiring a competent carrier. Obviously, if the carrier, one of the prerequisites for being able to operate in interstate commerce is you got to have a license and insurance, right? So if you don't have insurance,
can't be carrying loads.
Yeah. Right?
And that information's out there. The shipper 100%. Could find this information out if they just do their due diligence.
Yeah, no question about it.
Not just selecting the cheapest carrier.
So the owner operators, though, I mean, the interesting thing, Cor, is I think with a lot of owner operators is they're running, it's just them, them in a trailer, them in a tractor, or they might have one other driver. And it's, they gotta hire somebody that is going to kind of keep track of that stuff for them. And whether it's, I mean, there's a whole cottage industry now for the owner operators to be able to, like outsource their back office stuff.
Yeah, and we get it's not easy out there, right? They're trying to make a buck, right? Trying to make money, but you still have to comply with the regulations. And if you can't keep track of it, you got to find someone who can.
Yeah, right? I mean, I'm trying to think of what the name of those companies are, but I know we've run across a couple of them where they, they'll handle, you can, like Penske, for example, you can hire Penske. Everybody thinks Penske just leases trucks and everything, but you can actually hire Penske to run your kind of back office logistics stuff, so that you make sure while you're out on the road, you're going to have somebody making sure that that all the information for your logs is being kept and accurate. Your accident reporting is being accurate. Your insurance is being accurate. So, it pays to, it is. I mean, it costs a couple bucks, but let me tell you, it's money that is much, much, much better spent than trying to pay to defend a lawsuit now that you caused a crash and you don't have any insurance, and now you're going to be digging into your pocket potentially to pay lawyers and also pay for the damages you caused. That's a bad day.
I mean, if you're running, and then if you're on the flip side, if you're running for a national carrier, they should be doing this. They should be checking and make sure you have your med certs, your insurance, and all that kind of stuff. And they shouldn't allow you to run loads for them if they don't have. If you don't have that stuff.
I mean, they'll do. Yeah, I mean, you're 100% right. They should be checking just to make sure that you have that stuff and it's there, right? I mean, look, your insurance card, just like any other driver that's out there, that should be in your tractor, right? Yeah. And it should tell you when the expiration date is, and if that expiration date is coming up, you should really, you got to be on top of it. I mean, it's a pain in the butt for sure to keep track of all that paperwork, but you got to be on top of it. What else we got?
So this one's pretty pertinent right now with all the bad weather we have going on. Can a driver be forced to take a load from dispatch?
Yeah, this is this is always we hear the stories. We know, again, we represent a lot of truck drivers, and these men and women are out there, working really, really hard. And we hear this, that, hey, if I don't accept the load, or if I tell them the weather's bad, I'm not going to drive, the real danger is that they might not get another load, right? Especially if you're kind of in that quasi owner operator and you got one or two trucks, and
you'd be kicked off the load board.
You'd be kicked off a load board, right?
Your scores will be lower. You won't be able to get the premier loads that you want to drive.
Right, you won't get premier loads. You won't get premier lanes. I mean, a whole host of things. So, the answer is yes. You can certainly refuse it. And unfortunately, in the trucking industry right now, even if you refuse it, there's nothing that you could really do proactively to stop all the, them taking you or not giving you more loads or whatever it may be, because, the reality is they are going to go find somebody that's going to risk their lives and the lives of other people to try to move that, load. And that's terrible, terrible to say, but look, at the end of the day, like your life, the life of, people that are out on the roadways, that's worth more than any one load. And, it's a tough call, especially like when you're in that position to have to say to, dispatch, look, I'm out of hours. The weather's bad. I got some mechanical defects on the truck right now. Especially if you're trying to make ends meet.
Yeah. I mean, if you do choose to take the load, right, you got to be safe out there.
Yeah.
I mean, we live in the Northeast. There's snow squalls all the time. I mean, we just settled. I just resolved the case with a sudden snow squall, big pileup crash, right?
The snow squall cases. I mean, they're nuts. Like these pileup cases. Like,
I mean, I think there was 80 vehicles in this.
80. I mean, 80 vehicles. I mean, one guy was off the road, and there's a wild video. Like the car gets launched, and the guy like has to dive out of the way.
He actually posted it on Facebook.
Yeah.
So, and that's kind of what I wanted to get at. Like, if you're in a snow squall like this, right, and there's a pileup case, and you're involved, if you're getting out of your vehicle, get out and go as far away as possible.
Like, go in the wood. Like, go far, far, far in the woods. Like, if you're gonna, get out of your vehicle, and listen, in those snow squall cases, we highly recommend, like, if you are in a pileup, get the hell out of there.
Yeah.
Get out of there, because the problem is, like, this case that Corey just settled. This was the problem. Like, you had your first crash, right? And then you had a bunch of people that stopped and didn't run into the first crash. So you had a bunch of people that were stopped, and then all of a sudden you have the next, they plow into those folks. And so the people that actually were safe stopping before they they got rear-ended.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, a number of them lost their lives because, these things burned to the ground.
Yeah, and that's what I was kind of getting at. Like, if you're a truck driver, do not just stop in the middle of the roadway on these things. Like, if you have to stop, try and get off the roadway or get it into a safe space. I mean, a lot of times there's going to be signs on the highway, acknowledging that, hey, sudden snow squall, like slow down, all this stuff.
Yep.
I mean, it could happen out there. It's
no question.
Far too prevalent. Yeah. If you're a bystander, like I said, get the hell out of there.
And like truck drivers, we've seen it. We've seen it so many times. Like they stop, right? So you have the truck driver who is doing everything that he or she is supposed to do in those circumstances. They've reduced their speed. They're driving a crawl. They stop before they run into the pile. And now, so they're stopped in the middle of the roadway, and this is a snow squall situation, and they know, look, you're not going to be moving past that next pile, and then, boom, they just get absolutely, all of a sudden now somebody rear ends them. I mean, you got all this fuel that's all over the place, and these things catch fire, and I mean, people burned to death. That case, I think four people burned to death. I mean, that's horrible. So, like, truck drivers, like, make sure, like, if it's one of those pile-up situations, your life is worth more than your truck and trailer.
100%.
I mean,
100%.
Get out of that. Get your phone. Get out of it and get as far away from that crash site as possible until the authorities come and clear it.
Yeah,
right? Because you're not going anywhere.
No, you're not going anywhere. And, like, I mean, there's videos like people standing and assessing the damage of their vehicle.
Oh.
The person almost got hit.
Getting smoked.
Get the hell out of there as far away as possible.
Yeah, because, I mean, it's good. Look, it is almost a certainty that in those pile-up situations, you're going to have multiple piles. It's just going to happen, right? And so if you are in that position where you haven't hit anybody, but now it's a pile-up, just go. Just get off the roadway. You personally get off the roadway so that you're not in danger of getting hit. And then because the problem is if you get hit and pushed into the pile, then you can't get out.
Yeah, you're going to get trapped, and that's
trapped.
Unfortunately, that's exactly what happened to our client.
Yeah.
In that
So
case.
it's and I think that trucking companies, because there's so many pileups. I mean, we have a couple of them right now. There's so many pileups, especially in the Northeast corridor in the winter months. They're all over the place, but I mean, especially in the Northeast corridor, trucking companies really should start giving drivers training on, all right, hey, you're in a pileup situation. Like, what do you do, right? Like, here's the A, B, and C's. Get your phone, get whatever you need, and get out, get the safety. I mean, there should be these companies should have a protocol to say, look, this is what needs to happen, because I think unfortunately
I've never even thought about that.
No, and
honestly.
I think unfortunately, like, the truck drivers, like,
get left out to dry sometimes.
Yeah, they're like, oh, all right, I didn't hit anybody, and then the next thing you know, they're getting crushed and getting burned to death. So yeah, I mean, trucking companies, again, I'm sure that there's probably some organizations like JJ Keller or something out there that probably has some material. We should actually look that up.
Yeah, that's honestly a great point now that we're talking through this. Because I never really thought about that. And it's too prevalent, especially where we live.
I have a good idea every now and then. Yeah, let's for the next episode, let's look that up and see if there actually are protocols out there for what the drivers should do when they're in a pileup.
All right, cool.
All right, what else we got?
What happens if an ELD malfunctions? Could the person still drive?
Yeah, they can. Yeah. So you have to. So yes, if the ELD malfunctions, you can still drive. That's why you should always have like the backup paper logs, because you can, but you have to. You do have to document that the ELD malfunctioned. Note the time that it malfunctioned. And then you can move to the paper log.
Yeah, I mean, you still have to log it though, right? Like,
still gotta log it.
You can't just say, "Oh, well, ELD's gone. I'm just gonna drive." And
ELD is gone. Let's drive like hell. That's it. Let's drive for 24 hours straight. See how see where we can go.
And what's the purpose? What's the difference between the ELD logs and the paper logs for people who don't know?
Yeah. So the ELD logs are literally electronic logs, and I mean it's primarily on. I think most of them are on drivers' phones now, and so they make it pretty simple. You're going to log your driving time, your on duty time, your off duty, and your sleeper time, just right on the phone. It's just clicks of a button, and it
kind of looks like a graph.
Yeah,
right?
it looks like a graph, and what it does, the electronic logs, eliminate or are supposed to be able to eliminate. The ability for people to fudge their logs, right? Because the old paper logs, I mean, they could write down whatever they wanted, and the only way that you would catch them is you would have to match up things like toll receipts and scaling tickets, things of that nature that had timestamps along the route to see if they actually were logging correctly. With the ELDs, it's really more attuned to some of the telematics that are now in the trucks, tracking movement. So it is a lot harder to manipulate, although apparently there are...
People do try to manipulate them, but like you said, they're connected to, I mean, if you get the electronic... Yeah, you're going to get caught, right?
You're going to get caught. So here's case we just had, right? So... they manipulated the ELD, and there was co-drivers, right? And at one point, it had both of the co-drivers in the sleeper berth, but the ECM was showing that the truck was still moving. So
that's not a phantom. There's not a ghost driving.
Impossible. It's an impossibility, right? So right then and there, like, we knew that they had manipulated the logs, and however they were doing it. Again, I know I've been on some of the Reddit boards that kind of, explain how to manipulate these electronic logs. Don't do it. You're going to get caught.
Yeah.
Like, there's just too much technology on these trucks now that, track movement. So like if you're
that one was simple to catch. Honestly,
it was so simple. It's
the
like,
vehicle's moving.
The truck
I'm
is moving.
sleeping. I'm sleeping.
Right.
Well,
right. Yeah. You both can't be sleeping and the truck moving. I mean, I guess theoretically you could if you're going down a hill. But I mean, let's be honest. Like you can't both be in the sleeper berth at the same time and the truck's still moving.
So that kind of leads me into, and this isn't the question that was asked, but we're talking about co-drivers. So co-drivers, basically they're running double, so the truck doesn't have to stop, essentially, right? Like they could get this load somewhere faster. Constant motion. Right? And in that particular case, one of the drivers was, using a cell phone.
Yeah.
Right? Watching YouTube and doing a bunch of things that we were talking about earlier.
All kinds of nonsense.
If you're the co-driver, right, not the one that's using the cell phone, what should you do in that situation?
Yeah. So, I mean, very simply, if you're the co-driver and you see that, the other driver is doing stuff that is potentially unsafe, they're talking on the cell phone, they're watching a video. This lady was she was looking, away from the roadway. One, you have an obligation to yourself, right? To the company and then to the motoring public, right? And I'm not saying like in that order, right? I mean, you're out on the roadway, like, look, this lady is putting your life and everybody else's
right.
life.
I mean, you want to get home to your family, right?
So I think for the co-drivers out there, if that driver's exhibiting this behavior, you got to get a message to dispatch immediately. I mean, there's a zillion different modes of communication now that the drivers and trucks have with dispatch. I mean, send a message like, hey, Corey's out here, watching porn on YouTube, and what do you want me to do, right? And obviously if they don't stop, then I mean, you can always call law enforcement, as well to have them, have them intervene. But it's a very serious thing, especially with the co-drivers. I mean, a lot of times, they're going back in the sleeper berth, and they're not falling asleep.
No, they're on their phone most of the time.
They're on their phones, which is also dangerous. But so they see what's going on, and they really got to do something to stop the behavior.
Yeah, and I mean, if you're a carrier, most of these cameras now have AI technology that they should be able to catch this stuff, right?
Yeah, you just got to have somebody that's actually
monitoring it, right? If someone's monitoring it, then you'll be able to catch this, right?
Yeah, why? I mean, and that, we've talked about this before, like these companies, and we talked about it on the first episode, like those cameras save lives, right? The technology, it absolutely unequivocally saves lives. So it saves lives, it reduces costs, all the above. So like, why wouldn't you want to really have somebody that's going to be able to take full advantage of everything that those systems have to offer? It just, it's,
you already paid for the technology to use it.
You're paying for the technology and you're paying for the service. So I mean,
and a lot of them have policies that say that people are monitoring it, but in reality, that just doesn't happen, unfortunately.
And those things, so especially like now looping back to the co-driver situation, if the obviously the co-driver, but the company should be kind of keeping an eye on that as well, because they're going to get real-time alert. I mean, if they have the cameras that have the AI capability, they're going to get real-time alerts that this driver is exhibiting unsafe driver behavior, and so now they can proactively do something to prevent a crash that could potentially injure the co-driver and everybody else out there, because anytime you have a situation where you have a crash and there's a co-driver in the sleeper berth, man, they're getting they're getting injuries.
Yeah, they're getting legit hurt. In these crashes,
and they're getting tossed around. So we've seen some brain injuries in the sleeper berth. It's a bad situation for sure.
So, all right, next question. We kind of got asked. We did the law on you earlier today,
Right.
and this was a question that kind of popped up, but I want to kind of go into it a little bit more. The load was not loaded properly.
Oh, yeah,
A bunch
yeah.
of pipes were loaded onto a flatbed.
Yeah.
They fell off and injured someone.
Yeah, this is pretty. We've got a bunch of loading cases.
Yeah.
Recently. I tell you, these microphones are so nice.
They're much better than the card holders we had last
They really
week.
are. I mean, kudos to Jake and Kyle, man. They're really stepping up their game. So we've got a bunch of loading cases, recently, and they're interesting cases because, there's a number of entities now that are involved in these, the loading and unloading of trucks. I mean, 15 years ago, 20 years ago, it just used to be whatever warehouse they were going to loaded the truck, right?
That was before my time, so
Yeah, before Corey, Corey was still 16 years old.
I was your witness at that point.
Yeah, which is a good story that we'll have to get into another day. How Corey ended up here at the firm. So, 15 years ago, they would, again, you'd pull the trailer back, they'd load it, you'd leave. Now, you have these logistics centers, you have these warehouses, you have the evolution of Amazon and some of these other, huge kind of logistics companies. And so now, like, you really don't have that traditional, just shippers are loading trailers, right? You have, a lot of stuff that's getting moved to like a centralized location, and then you got a loading company that is doing the loading for a specific location or a specific product. So, it becomes a question of, who's responsible for what and at what point in time, right? Because, if it's a sealed load, which means that there's basically a seal on the back, the driver can't inspect that load by law, right?
They're not allowed to.
They're not allowed to. So, it's not the driver's responsibility. So then it becomes a question of, all right, well, who loaded it, and then who authorized the sealing of it? Because you can't seal the load until somebody verifies that it was loaded properly. So there's a number, and that could be a different person than who loaded the load, right? That could be the warehouse, the actual warehouse. So these loading cases become very nuanced, and the drivers out there, they have to understand, like, their rights as well. Like, look, if that seal is on there, like, they have the right to actually look at the certification that who loaded it and that it was signed off that it was loaded appropriately.
Yeah, because you're going to get likely drug into a lawsuit over this.
Oh, no
right?
question.
Even though if you did nothing wrong, you don't have the ability to
question.
check, but like, you have to make sure that this stuff was done properly.
And we see it, again, we've had a bunch of loading cases recently, and one of the, we see the flatbeds.
Yeah.
A lot of the flatbeds that are loaded with whatever product it is. We have one that has steel pipes on it. Those are the ones that seem to be the more apt to fail, if you will. Like those types of loads, not the loads that in a trailer, although those could be bad as well, but those ones that are on open flatbeds.
Yeah, those like tankers too.
Yeah, tankers. Stuff anything that needs to be tarped or strapped. There's very, very, very specific protocols to do that. Like, metal pipes need to be secured a certain way. If you got almost like bags of mulch, they need to be a certain way. If you have equipment that's on a flatbed, it needs to be loaded and unloaded and secured a certain way. So there are a number of really a number of issues on on that, but the drivers, make sure that you understand who's doing what, because at the end of the day, if something goes bad with that load,
someone could get hurt, right? And but here's the thing. It's not only just the motoring public that could get hurt in something like this.
Oh, the drivers.
I have multiple cases right now where a load was loaded improperly, and the truck flips over. Yeah. It turns over as it's going around a corner, and the person dies.
Yeah, no,
right.
Bad.
So it's not just to make sure that the load is proper because of it may fall off or something like that. But if you're going around a turn, you could be injured in this. So, I mean, you're carrying a lot of weight behind you. You want to make sure that this is put on the truck properly.
Yeah, and I think it's, again, we fully recognize that the drivers, they're under a lot of pressure.
Yeah.
Right? And so a lot of time pressure. And so they may not want to take that extra time to now say, hey, was this thing done properly? But you really should take those few extra minutes. Take a look at that inspection report or checklist that they're verifying that this is loaded properly. Because Corey's right. Like, I mean, you see, like they go, you have a truck that goes around a corner, and if it's not loaded correctly, and it turns over, man, it's there's really significant injuries and death that result.
Yeah, and if you're the one loading it, make sure you take the time and load it properly.
Absolutely. And by the way, here's the other thing: if you don't know how to load it, ask somebody.
Yeah, have someone do it for you.
Like, don't just try to, don't just guess it, right? Make sure that there's somebody there that can give you proper instruction about how to load, whether it's 2x4s or steel pipe or drums or whatever, whatever it may be.
Yeah. Couldn't agree more. Make sure it's done properly, because again, you're the one that could be injured in this. So, we've gotten a lot of questions about independent contractors in trucking. Right?
Yeah.
So I kind of wanted to kind of explain how under the federal motor carrier safety regulations, they're considered employees.
Yeah. So, look, it doesn't take a lot to set up a trucking company. Right. You need to start, have a company and then apply for and get a DOT number. Okay. So you technically, Corey can set up Corey's trucking company really today. I mean, he's going to need license. He's going to need insurance. And now Corey's trucking company is an owner-operator or a quote-unquote independent contractor. Now, where, if you have a shipper, a big shipper, let's just say like Target, hires Corey directly, then that's a situation where Corey is a true independent contractor.
Right.
Corey's trucking is going to be the trucking company. That is infrequent.
Yeah, that doesn't really happen too often.
Doesn't really happen, right.
In today's age, at least,
It is very infrequent because you have brokers, you have they're called 3PLs, 4PLs, all these other entities that are involved in the transportation cycle. So now, like, same scenario, like you have the shipper is Target, and Target is going to essentially, they're gonna ask FedEx to move a particular load, and Corey is a quote service provider for FedEx. Well, now Corey's no longer an independent contractor; he's working under FedEx's DOT authority for that particular load.
Right, and some of the, we talked about when you talked about when you set up the trucking company. Some of these trucking companies don't even have DOT numbers, right?
No, yeah.
So they're
many
most of them do not,
yeah,
actually.
There's a lot that don't. And so then they're operating under whatever entity, contracted for the load. They're operating under their DOT authority. So, and so then it becomes an issue of, all right, well, now if you are only working for, the Amazons of the world or FedExes of the world or XPOs of the world, whatever it may be, and that's all you're working for and all you're taking loads for, are you really independent, right? Or are you? They're saying you're independent, but in reality, you're an extension of that particular entity by virtue of all the work that you do for them.
Yeah, I mean, just because you have the ability to take loads for other people doesn't necessarily mean you're independent.
Right. And so, the real test is like, look, if all of your or the majority of your work is beholden to one entity, then it is less likely that you're going to be a true independent contractor. Yeah. If you're somebody who is going out and going on load boards and bidding on loads and getting loads yourself, far more likely that you may be an independent contractor. However, you got to look even a little bit beyond that to see what was your status in that particular transportation cycle. Yeah. Because and here's why that affects obviously the third party, like a liability case, but it also affects your workers' compensation status.
Right. Exactly.
Right?
That's what. Yeah.
Yeah. Because we have this case right now where this individual was a quote unquote independent contractor, but he was attached for this load with a very a big company, and at the end of the day, he is their employee under the Federal Motor Carrier Safety Regulations for that load. And as a result, he's operating under their authority. He was killed. Yeah. He's going to be entitled to workers' compensation benefits.
Yeah, his family.
His family is in that particular case. So, like to the truck drivers, like you really have to understand what you're doing in that for that particular load, like who you're attached to, how you're attached, because it has far-reaching ramifications.
And kind of like how much control, right? I mean, control is the main word in this, right? How much control does that company have over your movements? Because they say you're independent, but if they're tracking your movements, right? They're tracking your dash cam.
They're sending you texts,
telling you which way you have to go, weather alerts, all this stuff. I mean, they're controlling your move. They're controlling this transportation cycle.
No doubt.
So how independent are you really?
Yeah, not very. I mean, everything is, kind of bound up in the app world, these days, and you're getting loads by through their app. You're moving the truck and trailer through their app. They're giving you windows. I mean, it's just
wearing their uniforms.
You're wearing their uniforms. Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, and I would tell you, like we've had tons of these issues, and we do a lot of focus groups, right? And like you present this issue of a focus group, and they're like, "Wait, you're kidding? That company's saying that this guy who it's their app, it's their uniform, they got a logo, all this stuff that guy doesn't work for them." Yeah. They're like, "That's nonsense. Absolute nonsense. It doesn't play. It doesn't. It plays well, or sometimes I think the defense lawyers think it plays well in like a legal sense, but in like a reality sense, like walking into a courtroom, doesn't play at all."
No, I agree. So I think the last question today is kind of about...
Man, this is flying by, I'm telling you.
I know.
It's so much fun.
Through this.
There might be a future in this for us, Corey. You never know.
Thank you, everyone, for tuning in
and watching. Absolutely. No, this has been a lot of fun.
We enjoy doing this.
Yeah, this has been a lot of fun for us, for sure.
And
we got a new plant.
We got a couple new plants here.
I'm telling you.
New
plants, microphones. Stepping up,
stepping up the game.
We may have an actual set one of these days. You never know.
That'd be very nice. So maybe next time we could actually show you the video of bad loads, late loads and bad attitude.
Yeah,
I don't know
absolutely.
if we have the ability to do that, but if we do, that's how we're going to start next episode.
We will get our tech guys to figure that out, and we'll show you late loads and a bad attitude.
Yeah. That is the best clip.
I tell you, it should be a T-shirt at like every truck stop. Late loads and a bad attitude.
So the last one kind of goes into pre-trip inspections. obviously the truck driver should be doing this, but what are the ramifications if they don't do this or they don't keep accurate records?
So you can put out of service. I mean, that's pretty, that's the most drastic and severe thing. Like if you get a inspection and they look and they see that you're habitually not doing your DVIRs, they can put you out of service, and they put you out of service. And depending on how severe it is or how frequent it is, then that can have an effect on your safety rating, and could take, if you're conditional, could maybe potentially take you to unsatisfactory. If you're satisfactory, take you to conditional. It could be very, very, very problematic. And that's, by the way, that is like such low hanging fruit.
It's the easiest thing you could do.
For the inspectors, right? When they do an inspection, the first thing they're going to ask you for, let me see your logs, let me see your DVIRs. Yep. And if those things aren't in order, they know they are going to dig and dig and dig and dig and dig.
And it's the easiest thing for you to do too.
Oh my God! Yeah,
take just the 10 minutes. To do it.
And again, most of them are on the phone now. The DVIRs. So I mean, it's like if you've ever rented a car. They give you, like, you have to walk around the car and like check off the box. Like, the bumper's not smashed. The windshield's good. Everything's good. Like, it takes a couple minutes. Now, obviously, a 80,000 pound truck and trailer is going to take a little bit longer, but same thing. Like, it's all being done for your protection, for your safety, and then the safety of the people out there. And, so take the 5 minutes or 15 minutes and do it.
Yeah, and it protects you. I mean, we had a case recently. Remember the stop plate on the ramp?
Oh, yeah,
was missing.
Yeah.
Luckily, our client.
That was a wild plate. That was a wild case.
Yeah. I mean, but our client's a truck driver.
Yeah.
He makes deliveries for a living. And he pulls out the ramp on the back to unload. I think it was like cigarettes or something like that.
There was no stop.
There was no stop plate, and he hurt his neck pretty significantly in that case.
Yeah, because he fell back, and he ended up slamming his head and neck, and ended up with a pretty significant neck surgery.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And if now he did the inspection, the company deleted the record, so they knew about this, but they never fixed it. So it's important to do those inspections, then your company gets notified that something's wrong with this vehicle, and they don't put it in service.
Right. Yeah. They could take it out of service. They could fix it, whatever it may be. But those DVIRs, they're really critical, absolutely critical, especially kind of now in the winter, right? The component about like making sure snow and ice are cleared off, like that it's roadworthy. That is super important, because I will give you a tip, truck drivers. If you have snow and ice on the top of your truck, the state police will pull you over, and they will immediately know that you did not do a DVIR. Right?
How many times
you faked it?
Right. I mean, how many times I drove down up the 476 to get here today, right?
Yep.
How many times are you on 476 and you see just snow and ice flying off tractor trailers, land on your windshield? That's dangerous.
And that's part of your DVIR, to make sure that your truck and trailer are roadworthy, right? Ready for safe to be on the road. So you're just take those couple extra minutes and do it. It'll save you such a headache, and at the end of the day, save you a lot of time and money. Because look, you get put out of service, you can't earn a living,
right?
So why not take the extra 15, 20 minutes to make sure that you're not gonna get put out of service.
So what happens if you get put out of service?
Yeah, so there is a period of time for them to cure the deficiency. And then once the deficiency is cured, again, if it's habitual DVIRs, then somebody's going to ultimately have to sign off on that you've now have a corrective, there's a corrective plan in place before they'll let you back out on the road.
Yeah,
absolutely.
And if you're out of service, don't try and drive. I mean, that's the worst thing that you can do.
Don't drive.
That is the absolute worst. There was another question. It's a dovetailed perfectly, but like, don't get in the vehicle. Don't drive. No, you can't. You're gonna get caught.
You're gonna get caught, and then, you know, if you get into a crash and you got to sit across a conference room table for somebody, you know, from somebody like Corey or myself, just unfortunately, you know, you're going to be tortured. I mean, and rightfully so, because you did something really stupid. You know, I mean, you knew your truck was out of service. You know you're not supposed to be driving. You did it anyways, and you caused a crash.
Yeah. And if you're a company, don't make that drive.
Oh no,
you know,
absolutely!
It's just gonna be bad.
Absolutely not. So, boy, this flew by, man.
Yeah, this was quick.
All right, well, this is that's it. Thank you, everybody, for watching episode 2 of Under the Hood. We'll have episode 3 next month. Not hopefully. Sure. Yeah, no. Hopefully, if people keep watching and keep tuning in, sending questions, we'll certainly will. You know, we'll let you know when that's going to be. But thank you, everybody, and you know, have a good rest of the day, and stay safe out there.
Be safe on the road.